My goodness. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver, and I gotta say, I'm really lucky to get to do this show. I've done it for almost 5.5 years now, and I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to watch. But there are about 10 shows or so a year where it's like I am just chomping at the bit to get in front of a camera behind a mic and give you all my thoughts on what happened, because holy what just happened this weekend in the NBA. We'll obviously get to that in just a moment, but a ton to talk about. As it relates to NBA trades, De'Aaron Fox traded to the San Antonio Spurs. We'll get into that in about 25 to 30 minutes or so. Fantastic deal, I think, for the Spurs. By the way, not a terrible move, given how it all transpired for the Sacramento Kings. Get to that in about 25 to 30 later on in the show, because I promised I would talk about this last week. The whole Chiefs are the villains thing, I still... It doesn't logically compute. I'll get to that in about 45 minutes on our special edition of Carving Up the Context as we enter Super Bowl week. We have two NFL topics, because Myles Garrett, superstar pass rusher for the Browns, has requested a trade. Get to that. And at the end of today's show, talk about my Warriors. I gotta admit to you, really, since the Luka news dropped, it has been as chaotic the last few days for the Golden State Warriors, as it reportedly they are desperate. About time to get a superstar next to Steph Curry. A crazy possibility that could transpire very, very soon. I see a comment before I get into the first segment. I see a comment from Barry Grant Jr. I don't appreciate not being on when my teammate makes big news, LOL. You know what? I'm just going to say this the front end, Barry. Hit me up. I'll send you the link to get on the stream. How about that? Okay, I'll get Barry Grant Jr. on, and we can talk Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Lakers, and Luka Doncic, because I do want to hear his thoughts if he's free to come on. So let's get into it. But first, I don't even know where to begin. So I'll tell the story. Late Friday night, as obviously I'm in Orlando, Florida, doing the Disney College program. It's been an absolute blast so far. I've enjoyed every second of it. But I get home. Actually, my shift ends 9:15. I go out and get a late night dinner. I get a big pizza from this local joint here. Delicious. Got some ice cream as like a special treat. I'm like, you know what? It was Saturday night. I apologize. Saturday night. I'm like, yeah, this is good. Kind of a cheat day. It is what it is. It happens. We all should get one every once in a while. Get back to my apartment sometime around midnight. Starting to wind down. Gonna take a shower, go to bed, all that. And then I see this on my phone, the Shams tweet, which, by the way, some people call him Shams. If he pronounces his name Shams, we're going to call it a Sham Slam. Remember Woj bombs? Sham Slam. Putting that out there right off the bat. But this is breaking news. Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. Sources tell ESPN a three-team deal includes Utah. And this, it's funny, Shams then puts the second tweet. Yes, this is real. Sources tell ESPN. He gives you the full trade breakdown. And when I see that, certainly the second tweet, I actually thought kind of reinforced this. The first tweet comes across, and I'm thinking, oh, Shams got hacked. Like Shams, this doesn't happen. There have been no inklings, no rumors, no anything that would even slightly indicate that Luka Doncic's future with the Dallas Mavericks was somehow in jeopardy. That was never on the board. And then ESPN tweets it, and then SportsCenter puts it on their show. I'm thinking, okay, Shams wasn't hacked. This is real, and this was initially my reaction. That's not a happy face. That is a Warriors fan who's trying to laugh to keep from crying. I'm just going to say that on the front end, because it was truly shocking. So we'll start from the Dallas side and then go to the Lakers side. So for Dallas, because I think that's who most people are focusing on. Yes, we'll talk about it, and time will go on. Luka, what's he going to be as a Laker? We'll get to that, and obviously that will materialize. For the Dallas Mavericks in the here and now, we've gotten a mix of reports talking about how this is one of two things, or actually both, maybe one playing into another. That the Mavs are concerned about Luka's conditioning, how well he's taking care of his body. We know Luka is not a guy who necessarily takes care of his body that well as it relates to his diet. So that's on the board. And reportedly, that's why the Dallas Mavericks did not want to give him this summer a 5-year, $345 million supermax. That would make him the highest paid player in the history of the National Basketball Association. And now because of this trade, the most of the Los Angeles Lakers can give him is $229 million, which, isn't exactly pocket change, to say the least. But still, Luka lost $116 million with this trade. And by the way, and then some, given that he's now moved from Texas to California with state taxes and all that. My question is, or my first of many, many questions for the Dallas Mavericks, some of which we won't have time to get into this segment, is if Luka Doncic is not worth the supermax, please tell me who is. Please tell me. I think if I had to list guys who I think are as or more deserving than Luka, it's two guys I think are more deserving, one guy who is as deserving. The two guys who are more deserving are the two guys I think are better. Nikola Jokic, who I think is the best player in the world, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Only guy that I think is equivalent or as deserving of the supermax as Luka. And the here and now is SGA. Steph Curry's not worth it. 5 years from now, Steph Curry's going to be 42 years old. LeBron James will be long gone out of the NBA in 5 years. Kevin Durant, potentially so. Like, if he's not worth it, Will Bryson. I mean, the reports say he came up out of shape, 270 pounds. He's not in pro basketball playing shape. Okay, for the sake of argument, let's say that's correct. Didn't seem to hurt him that much on the floor, because this is what the Dallas Mavericks just traded. 28 a game, 8.7 rebounds. We can actually show you a better version of this graphic. 28 points per game, which, by the way, is third all-time in NBA history, behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. I heard they were good. Didn't get to see him play growing up, but I heard they were good. 8.7 rebounds, 8.3 assists, and shot 47% for the field, which as a perimeter player is pretty darn strong. And I saw another report. There was a guy in Cleveland, a Cavs reporter, who put this out there based on people he talked to. He said, listen, there's some concern that Luka's lack of attention to detail as it relates to his body is going to turn him into Joel Embiid. Right? Like Joel Embiid, the big concern is, hey, doesn't take care of his body, and it's now materialized. Okay, there's so much wrong. If that's indeed true, if that was what was going through the thought process of Nico Harrison, and it seems like only Nico Harrison, based on what we're hearing out of Dallas, this was his call and his call only. He said himself the owner laughed at him when when this trade was proposed. There's so much wrong with this. Luka's 6'7", and Joel Embiid is 7'2". So there's that. 7-footers outside of Kevin Durant don't age that well, and KD is a perimeter player. The second part of that is Joel Embiid's missed about 47% of his career due to injuries. Luka Doncic has missed 22%. So it's not even remotely comparable. And number three, and most importantly in my mind, is Joel's lack of attention to detail as it relates to taking care of his body has been a big reason he has not showed up in the playoffs. As I have beat this drum for years on the show, Joel Embiid is the only MVP in the history of the NBA to have never made a conference finals. Luka Doncic is not an MVP. I think it's safe to say he'll get one at some point. Not this season because he's missed far too many games. But Luka in the playoffs, I always say about the playoffs, folks, when it comes to my superstars, I want you to maintain your level of greatness going into the postseason. If you can do that, I'm happy. If you are what you've been the majority of the season, got no problem with that. If you come up short of that, we still have to start asking questions. But there's the rare athlete. Mahomes does this. Michael Jordan did this. Tom Brady did this. LeBron James has done this. There's the rare athlete that elevates when the postseason rolls around. And Luka Doncic is in that category. Can we show you his postseason numbers? Because he is simply outstanding. 30 a game, which, by the way, second all-time behind Michael Jordan in that regard in the postseason. 9.4 rebounds, 8 assists, 46% for the field. He's gone to 2 conference finals and 1 NBA finals. And by the way, he has not turned 26 yet. And the Mavericks just traded that for Anthony Davis, which, listen, as the old saying goes in the NBA, and what makes, to me, for Dallas, just so much sense about this trade is they traded a guy who they have conditioning and injury concerns over for an older guy who has conditioning problems or has had them and has injury concerns in the here and now. That makes all the sense in the world. And the question I have to ask Dallas too is, A, why were you in a rush? Because listen, this is Luka Doncic we're talking about. This is bare minimum one of the 5 best basketball players on the face of the earth. But, so he's going to have his suitors. Is it possible maybe you'd have more suitors or get a better package if you extend him in the offseason? And then you put him up with the opportunity to get traded and get a better package? Why was it only the Lakers that the Mavericks called? Because people are like, people have hit me up personally, like, oh, Bryson, you've been hard on Pelinka. You got to, what did Pelinka do? Rob Pelinka's job here, the best thing he did was pick up the phone. And Nico Harrison called him. And reportedly, according to Nico, Rob Pelinka was like, you're kidding, right? Like, are you being serious right now? You're offering this guy? You want to trade this guy to us? Okay. Yeah, and we get to keep Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves and some of our potential future pieces that could be, good with Luka to potentially contend for championships in the future. Or we could turn those trade assets into a big. Maybe go out and get Miles Turner from the Pacers. Feel like the Lakers have gone after him for 3-4 years. So from Dallas's perspective, it's an abomination of a trade. Listen, Dallas is a good basketball team today. A team with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis leading the show. Great. You know what the problem with both those two guys are? They've done, as it relates to the postseason, absolutely positively nothing as the number one option in their careers, which Kyrie is going to be the number one on-ball option. Anthony Davis is certainly the best player because of what he gives you on both ends. But Anthony Davis won one playoff series as the man in New Orleans before he got to Los Angeles. And Kyrie Irving won one playoff series as the man with the Boston Celtics. So, again, I simply ask, from Dallas's perspective, what? Because I've heard the Mavericks say, hey, we think this gives us a better chance to win. Better. Better. Yeah, you better hope it gives you a better chance to win, because you guys have like a 3-year window. Because Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis are around the same age, 32, 33 years old. You've got about a 3-year window, and the Lakers have like a 10-year one. So the math is already not on your side that much. And so for Dallas, nothing about it makes sense. And it's, again, I repeat it again, it's the most stunning transaction I've ever seen in my life in sports. Certainly in the NBA, folks will say, oh, well, what about LeBron to the Heat? I don't know. We knew he talked to the Heat. No one thought he'd go there, but he talked to Miami. It was on the board he could go to the Heat. KD to the Warriors. KD literally, we knew very well that KD talked to Warriors. Again, we didn't think he'd actually go there. It was surprising. As a Warriors fan, I was shocked and elated. But he talked to the Warriors. There was no inkling of this. There were no rumors. LeBron didn't know. AD didn't know. Luka didn't know. Luka reportedly, according to Chandler Parsons, who knows Luka apparently cried when he heard the news for a number of reasons. And so, listen, for Dallas, it's again, I repeat it again, it's an abomination of a trade. It's the worst trade I think made in sports since a trade involving my favorite baseball team, the Boston Red Sox, moving Mookie Betts for nothing. It's that bad. Now, again, Dallas did not get nothing. They got Anthony freaking Davis for about 2 to 3 years. It doesn't make sense. For the Lakers on the other side of things, listen, first of all, it's like this. I'm going to repeat what I said about Pelinka. I'm not going to give Rob Pelinka credit for doing the single most obvious thing ever. That'd be like if the Denver Nuggets called the Orlando Magic and said, hey, you want to swap Paolo for Jokic? I'm a Paolo guy, but come on now. This is Jokic. Jokic is the best player in basketball, my man. No lower than number 2 in the eyes of many. And so you have that component onto it. What is Luka going to do as a member of the Dallas Mavericks? The Los Angeles Lakers. I think this obviously ensures, okay, this is the face of our franchise. LeBron is no longer the face of the Lakers, nor is he the best player in the Lakers. This, I think, is the first time in LeBron James's adult life, heck, even adolescent life, that he has played on a basketball team and he's not the best player. He's not. LeBron's still awesome. We saw what he did in the Garden literally the night of the trade. He was tremendous. but Luka can simply do more things at a more efficient level, but at a higher level, more consistently than LeBron can. And so you have that component onto it. So what does that mean for LeBron? I have speculated on this show. I think next year, I've said this for about 6 months now, I think next season, year 23, will be the final year LeBron James suits up in an NBA uniform. That could be this year. Maybe this trade fast tracks it. I doubt LeBron is going to spend the last however much longer's left in the Lakers season, 2 months, 3 months. If the Lakers have it their way, 4 months, thinking about this as he's going through the season in pursuit of what could potentially be a championship contending year for the Lakers. As of right now, I don't think they can contend for a title because they have literally no defense. People talk about, obviously, Anthony Davis. Duh. We know what he gives in the defensive end. You can make a case he's the best defensive player in basketball still. Max Christie could defend the perimeter now. Max Christie was a good defender that they moved on from. And so is LeBron their best? Because, listen, I'm a Tennessee guy. I love me some Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht couldn't defend me. Well, he could probably defend me. He's not a good defender. Austin Reeves, not a good defender. LeBron. In spurts, Luka, that's the hole in his game. Luka simply, not only that he can't play defense, he straight up doesn't play defense. That's just not his MO. And so, listen, I think it is for the Los Angeles Lakers, again, this ensures that they're contenders for the next decade. What it's going to be is when LeBron is, listen, I'll say this, I don't think LeBron is a Laker in 5 months. I really don't, because I think at this point, I think Cleveland is on the board. My man Mike Guida, who's a Cavs fan, has suggested, hey, why won't LeBron finish his career in Cleveland? Is Cleveland ever a more attractive destination than now? My goodness. If Cleveland were to go to the conference finals or something, and they'd be like, man, there's LeBron retirement press tour, yeah, but does he give us a better chance to compete next year? Darn right he does. And so could he return to Cleveland? The Knicks could be a potential option. I'm going to talk about it at the end of the show. The Warriors, I think, are on the board. I think LeBron is going to, and he loves the Lakers. We know he loves living in L.A., got a lot of business in L.A. I think he's going to retire in L.A., not as a Laker, but in the city of Angels. That's his home now. I just don't see the benefit of playing with a guy. It's not a personal disdain because LeBron actually is a fan of Luka, said he wants to play with Luka. I just don't know how they fit together. Kyrie Irving does fit well with Luka because Kyrie can play off the ball. There's a lot of guys. I don't think this will happen, but a Kevin Durant, for example. Like Kevin Durant would fit well with Luka. Steph Curry fits with basically anybody, but he would fit with Luka. These are two on-ball dominant guys that, what's LeBron going to do? Stand in the court? LeBron could play power forward, I guess, but I don't think you're getting the best LeBron James if that's the case. And Luka certainly is not going to be a spot-up shooter. He's not that good of a three-point shooter to begin with. He's like a mid-30% guy. So, the fit perspective, listen, everybody discussing, what are the Lakers going to be the rest of the season? Honestly, I'm not a Laker fan. Lord knows I'm not a Lakers fan. If I were one, I wouldn't really care, to be honest with you. If we go on the first or second round, okay, we got Luka for 10 years. We're good. LeBron, you got us a title. Thanks, man. We're going to retire your jersey. Go pursue excellence somewhere else. Like, this is Luka's franchise now. It's J.J. Redick's franchise as well as the new head coach. And I think J.J.'s done a very good job so far, as I thought he would with what he had. So, listen, it's remarkable that the Lakers, be it by luck, be it by organizational brilliance, somehow consistently land not stars, not even superstars, but the apex guys in the league. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when they made the move for him in the mid-1970s. It was drafting Magic Johnson, the first overall pick. It was in 1979. It was the late greats, the greatest executive in the history of basketball. Oh, and by the way, he was a pretty good player as well. Jerry West, having the foresight to see, hey, this 17-year-old Kobe Bryant, we got something here. I'm going to trade with Charlotte and bring him in as a member of this team. And yeah, we saw that pan out. Kobe was amazing. With Shaquille O'Neal, getting Shaquille O'Neal, obviously bringing him in free agency, trading for Pau Gasol, and helping Kobe Bryant get 2 more titles in 2009 and 2010 with the finals appearance in 2008. Getting LeBron James, despite what was at the time a disastrous situation in Los Angeles, with some of the missed draft picks, with the organizational jumbled up mess with the Bus family and the Rambuses, and they somehow managed to get LeBron James. They get Anthony Davis. Now they literally just step into Nico Harrison. Hey, y'all want Luka? Yeah. We'd like Luka. We wouldn't mind to take a flyer on that guy. He's pretty good. And so, listen, I guess this is just a reinforcement of what has been reality in the NBA for 5+ decades. The Lakers get all the best players. By the way, it's up to the rest of the NBA to compete. It's up to Boston, Oklahoma City, Houston as they continue to mature and improve. Hopefully at some point, Golden State to compete with this team moving forward. And so, yeah, I thought the Lakers would kind of go back into being the Drubs of the NBA once LeBron James retired, because I didn't think Anthony Davis could have carried them as number one option, certainly at that stage of his career. So I don't think Dallas is going to work that well. It'll be successful. They'll be fine. They may win a playoff series, but I don't think it'll go much further than that. And they stumble into what is the most shocking sports transaction I've ever seen in my life. Because some people talk about, wait, man, Brady to the Buccaneers was shocking. No, it wasn't. It was kind of surprising when I saw the notification on my phone 5 years ago that Brady was going to Tampa. I was like, oh, Tampa? That's kind of weird. Seeing Brady in New England for as long as we saw him, and it's like, man, he kind of looks weird with the pirate flag on his helmet. But the fit made sense. It had been on the board that Tom was going to Tampa. LeBron had conversations with Miami. Katie had conversations with Golden State, and those were free agent moves. It's like the Cavs traded LeBron. That would have been different. It'd have been like if the Cavs traded LeBron and not told anybody. That's the part I still can't get through my head, is all of this happened totally behind the scenes. It's remarkable. It really, really is. To the comments now. Let me take a drink of water first, because, man, I'm fired up. Grady Edwards. My man Grady, what's up, brother? He says LeBron needs to suit up with Luka and have the Lakers build around them both. This team is built to make a championship if they put the right team around these guys. I see your second comment, Grady. Let me address your first. I agree with you. They were built to win a championship. They surrounded with the right guys. The absolute priority now. Trade deadline is at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock on Thursday, February 6th. They've got 3 days essentially to land a big. They have to get it. Jackson Hayes is not going to cut it, folks. That's not Jackson Hayes ain't very good. That's not going to work. Okay, right now, if the Lakers were in the playoffs, you know who they'd face? Denver. I'm not picking them to win that series. I wouldn't pick them to win the series with AD. Without him, forget about it. And so I think Jonas Valanciunas is on the board. I think Miles Turner's on the board. Yet they have to get a big. Even still, I don't think they'll be that good defensively, but they have to have somebody that can protect the rim the way a guy like Miles Turner can. As of right now, I don't think they can contend without a big. To your second point, Grady. Bryson, it's so funny that people on ESPN are trying to pitch the Mavericks as a serious contender. Just say Stephen A. Smith, and I love Stephen A., but, it was Stephen A. Smith. Luka is literally the reason they were a contender. And again, not to take credit from Kyrie or Derek Lively or PJ Washington, the guys that helped them get to the finals last year, but that was Luka. We saw what he did throughout in moments against Oklahoma City, and I think it was Game 5, if I remember correctly, at OKC. Game 5 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he went berserk on Minnesota to close them out in that series. Listen. I'm not trying to. I feel like the mistake we're all making right now, and it's natural given the player that just got traded, is shorting Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, I've said, it is a basketball crime that Rudy Gobert has 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and Anthony Davis and Draymond Green combined have 1. Anthony Davis, 0. It's illogical that should be the case. And we know he can give you. He's 25 and 12 a night. That's Anthony Davis, 25 and 12. But he's in his 30s now, and he has an injury history. It's Dallas traded a guy they had injury and conditioning concerns for a guy with injury and conditions concern who's 7 years older, 6, 7 years older. It makes no sense. But hey, I can tell you there's one man in Dallas who's very happy today, and that's Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones can sit back at night. He probably doesn't have the self-awareness to do this, but Jerry Jones can rest well at night in his God knows how expensive mansion somewhere in Dallas and be like, well, I'm not the most hated GM in Dallas anymore. But keep in mind, this is the same Nico Harrison who famously in 2013, when he tried to extend Steph Curry with Nike, because Nico Harrison was at Nike at the time, he put this little pitch video for Steph. And in the video, Steph was referred to as Seth, his little brother, Seth Curry. And at the end of the video, it said, "Welcome to Nike, Kevin Durant." Listen, apparently Nico has a military background. I think I heard Stephen A. say today that he played at West Point. Boy, that is not the discipline that is reflected in our troops. Because my gosh, it's shocking. It is. I still can't. I woke up this morning, still couldn't believe it happened. Okay, we've spent 26 minutes on the Luka trade. We may touch on it more throughout the night. We'll go to break right now. Come back, talk about De'Aaron Fox traded the Kings. We'll get to as well. Myles Garrett requested trade for the Browns. We've got Kansas City as the villain, which I'll have a carving up the context segment on. I still don't really get that one. By the way, at the end of the show, some Warriors trade news that has come out related to Kevin Durant. Listen, we've got a loaded show on tap. Oh, by the way, 6 days from now, that Super Bowl game, someone told me today that it was kind of important. Tune back into Carving Up Live. We'll be back in just 1 minute. I'm telling you, we are all over the place. So stay tuned. Do we ever break? All right, there we go. See y'all in a minute. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So, real quick, before we move to De'Aaron Fox, there are a couple of bits of stuff on Luka that I did want to touch on super fast. So, as sort of like a nail in the coffin on the "this is who the Mavs just traded." If we could pull up this one graphic, because we talk about Luka's great. I don't think we put into context how much the dude has already accomplished so early into his career. So he's 7 years in. This is 7th year in the NBA. I want to put up this one graphic real quick. Let's show this right here. Luka Doncic has been named first-team All-NBA 5 times. That's more than Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Garnett, Allen Iverson, and Dwayne Wade. More first-team All-NBAs than those guys. Now, 2 of them are still playing in Steph Curry and Jokic. Steph is more to the end of the right line than Jokic is. But it just kind of puts into context what this guy has already done. I can't believe it. It's like, well, he was overweight. I don't know. He was given every team buckets at will when he was overweight. So I don't know. And by the way, I saw the video. Did you see the video of him getting off the plane in LA? That's the skinniest 270-pound guy I've ever seen in my life. I don't listen. I'm not saying Dallas is lying. I'm just saying that's something that a lying team would say. And then the last thing I wanted to say on Luka, then I promise we'll move to De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs and get on with our show. But last thing I want to say is anytime I'll ever hear again about anytime people will say, oh, these players are not loyal to their franchises, or oh, how dare they want to go to another team in pursuit of winning. If any, not necessarily even fans, but if any front office, if any owner, GM, whatever, demands loyalty from players, the players should respond, you first. Given what Luka gave this franchise, given what AD gave the Lakers, and they don't tell him, Heck, give it what LeBron did for the Lakers. Won a title in the middle of COVID, after the tragic passing of Kobe, 2 years after the signing, and you don't tell the guy? You don't tell AD, who's the one getting moves? You don't tell Luka if you're the Mavs? Man, get out of here with loyal. Listen, players can be loyal when the owners and GMs are. That's because if we're gonna be mad at one side, let's keep it real on both sides of that coin. It's unbelievable. A couple comments from Grady, then we'll move on. AD is the guy I feel sorry for. Yeah, I mean, it sucks for him. He's a lower tier all-time Laker in my book, and we should retire his jersey. I actually asked, we have a group chat, the Grid. I actually put that in the group chat, asked the Lakers fans we got there, like Barry and Patrick and others. I said, should the Lakers retire AD's jersey? And they kind of were like, yeah, probably. So, yeah, three may never be worn again by a man wearing purple and gold. Grady says, and I appreciate what he did for us, but we definitely had to make this move. No question about it. And he also says, by the way, if the Mavericks should have a team nickname, it should be the Robins. Steph and LeBron's ex-teammates all teaming up. Oh, that's right. I forgot about Steph's ex-teammate. Because I thought about, LeBron had AD, and I totally forgot about Clay, which Clay's averaging like 13, 14 points a game this year. So, which isn't bad, but it's certainly a fall from great, and it's not Clay's fault, obviously, given what happened to him physically. But I did not think about that. I thought about how LeBron's two sort of Robins, so to speak, as you mentioned, greater teaming up. Never thought about the fact that Steph's iconic, Splash Brother, wingman, whatever, is with them as well. So there you go. And again, to go to something Grady said earlier, I'm genuinely shocked at how many people think Dallas could actually be a real contender. Shocked. If they add another piece, maybe, but I don't really see them doing that. All right, transition now. 32 minutes into our show, but it was that shock of a trade. We had to touch on all of it. De'Aaron Fox has been traded to the San Antonio Spurs. The deal from Shams Charania, it broke last night. The Spurs get Jordan McLaughlin. No offense, but that's not the big story here. De'Aaron Fox. This is a 3-team deal. The Sacramento Kings get Zach LaVine, City Cisco, 3 first-round picks, and 3 second-round picks. The Chicago Bulls, shout out to my man John Rivera, Bulls fan, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick via the Spurs. The reason it's their own pick via the Spurs is because that came from the DeMar DeRozan trade that happened not that long ago, a few years ago. So that's what the Bulls get. The Bulls get an opportunity to kind of try and retool, rebuild. I could see them trading Nikola Vucevic before it's all said and done at the trade deadline or in the offseason, try and rebuild what was once obviously a contending franchise years ago. As for Sacramento, listen, Zach LaVine has done a lot to boost his trade stock. He's been healthy. He's been balling this year, and they get 3 first-round picks out of this. And they still have Domantas Sabonis, and they have DeMar DeRozan. So, listen, they've got guys like what's my man's name? Malik Monk, who I've been a fan of for a while. They've got a host of other guys, Keegan Murray. Maybe they could turn those first-round picks into a player. So, I think this is actually a decent trade for Sacramento. It's on their front office to cash in on that. It's the Kings, so we'll see. The story, though, is San Antonio getting Fox and teaming him up with Victor Wembanyama. So, obviously, I think this is a fantastic fit. There were some I won't go deep into the numbers, but there were some second-level stats, I think it was from Second Spectrum, that showed that Wemby and Fox, big man and point guard, in their respective roles are like 2 of the 5 or 6 most successful players, even apart from each other, in the pick and roll. Now put them together, now you got something special. And I think for the fact that you got this kid, Victor Wembanyama, who we all knew coming out of France was the greatest talent to come into the NBA draft in 20 years since LeBron back in 2003, and the fact that we're in year 2, he's averaging 24 a game, and he very well may win Defensive Player of the Year in year 2. So I just spent a half hour talking about the generational prospect Luka is. Same case can be made for Wembanyama. For De'Aaron Fox, listen, he took Sacramento to the playoffs in his 6th year in the league with Domantas Sabonis, with the cast and characters they had. They were the best offensive league. They just happened to come up short to what I believe to be one of the 10 greatest basketball players to ever live, Steph Curry, in that 50-point Game 7. But if you remember, Fox had a great series, had a great year, won Clutch Player of the Year. Kings kind of took a step back. They haven't been playing that well this year. Mike Brown got fired, which I still think was a mistake on the Kings' part. But now you put him in San Antonio, which You want to talk about the definition of stability in San Antonio. What, they went like 20 straight years or something crazy, making the playoffs. They had Duncan. They had Kawhi briefly as their superstar. There was the tumultuous relationship there. The Spurs kind of deteriorated. DeJounte Murray left. And then they stumble in the first pick, draft Wemby. Pop is still there. I was still recovering from the health scare he had not that long ago. So continue prayers to Greg Popovich. But he should be back sooner rather than later at full strength. But now you have De'Aaron Fox, you've got Wembanyama, and by the way, you still have some pieces that you could potentially move. I don't think Chris Paul's getting moved. Chris Paul's probably going to go into more like the sixth man or seventh guy at the bench type of role. And you still got Stephon Castle out of UConn, who I was a huge fan of out of this past NBA draft, which wasn't great on the top end, but I thought he was a guy that, given where San Antonio drafted him, could fit them quite well. So does he transition to being more like a two-guard? Does his role or like a full-time two-guard, does that his role kind of shift now with Fox in the mix? I don't know. But what I do know is that with Wemby at 21 years old, 22, I think he's 21 years old, his age, De'Aaron Fox is kind of just now entering the prime stage of his career. We knew San Antonio was at some point going to get to that stage where, okay, we're starting to take them seriously as a playoff team, as a team that can win a playoff series, maybe now as a contender, because they have so much runway with as young as Wemby is. This is kind of fast-tracked that. So I'm not saying, I don't even know if San Antonio will make the playoffs this year. Right now, they're the 11 seed. They're not that far of the play-in, but they'd have to get out of the play-in. I'm not sure they'll do that as young as they are. But in 2 years, could I see the Spurs being a legit threat to win the 2027 title, so to speak? Sure, I could. The logic is, okay, we know how good Fox is, how good he is in the pick and roll, how the one playoff series he was in before he got hurt, he was excellent. Torched my Warriors multiple times. If this is the Wemby that we get now, if this is the Victor Wembanyama we see right now, the heck is he going to be in 2 years? The heck is he going to be in 10 years when he's right smack dab in the heart of his prime? So for the Spurs, they not only upgraded their roster, they not only got, one of the, 20, 25 at worst basketball players in the world on their team, but they got a guy who is a perfect fit, and that is the NBA, folks. When the Brooklyn Nets made the move it was 4 years ago now. Holy crap. 4 years ago to add James Harden to a team that had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, I said it at the time. I said, this is a terrible fit. You've got some guys that need the ball, some guys that can't play off the ball. The fit and what they gave up for him made no sense whatsoever. We've seen situations in NBA history. Heck, even briefly for a time, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were kind of a weird fit in Miami. LeBron and Kyrie, perfect fit. LeBron AD, perfect fit. Just because you're great doesn't mean you necessarily work together from a basketball perspective. Fox and Wemby are, it's like the hand fitting the glove perfectly. It couldn't make more sense for the Spurs to make this move. And shout out to my guy, Barry Grant Jr. He called this on his show weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, if I'm trying to be exact there, that this move was going to happen. It makes a lot of sense. Fox now goes to a stable franchise. He gets to team up with Wemby. They're in similar, Fox, obviously the older player, but they're similar, sort of stages of their career. Fox is a guy whose game is not predicated off athleticism. Yes, he's quick, but he's also wicked smart, is good with the basketball, makes good decisions, a clutch shot maker when need be. You trust him with the ball in his hands last 2 minutes of a game. You trust him to get it to Wemby if the situation calls for it. Kudos to the Spurs. And I saw this too, that Fox is going to wear number 2 with the Spurs. The last guy to wear 2 was Kawhi Leonard. And it's got my guy Preston Moore, shout out to him, who's a big Spurs fan. He retweeted something I saw today where it pointed out, hey, the last guy that wore number 2 wanted nothing to do with us. The new guy wearing number 2 is thrilled to be here. So, listen, Fox in Sacramento ran its course. I actually think the Kings got a pretty decent return in the 3-team deal. Zach LaVine and 3 first-round picks. Pretty good move for Sacramento, given that they have DeMar and Sabonis. And the guys that they have. So solid move for Sacramento, and it's a tremendous move for the Spurs. Tremendous move. Listen, we will be talking about Western Conference Finals in the future that are featuring De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, and maybe NBA Finals. That's certainly the goal for the Spurs. So kudos to them. RC Buford, man, did it again. Video. Let's see. Video Herb says the thing is everyone's missing is sometimes not being boring to watch. Goes a long way, then later they win. Oh, yes. I don't know what you're referring to, but Grady says De'Aaron Fox is like Kyrie before he played with any winning players. I think the guy has the potential to turn into a solid 2 on a championship team in San Antonio, being in a good organization. I don't think there's any question about it. Someone suggested if the Spurs were to add another guy and Fox is now your third best player, I'm like, listen, man, if De'Aaron Fox is your third best player, you are like top of the line, like top 3 team in the league. So it's kind of the case I remember making years ago. This was when Klay Thompson was still closer to the old Klay, or at least we thought he would be. But when the Warriors traded for Andrew Wiggins, I'm like, if Andrew Wiggins is your 4th best player, that's because he was the 2nd best player in Minnesota with KAD, and it didn't really work. If Andrew Wiggins is your 4th best player, okay, now this is kind of interesting. So Fox is the 2, pretty darn good basketball team. If Fox were to somehow be the 3, not play the 3 obviously, but be the 3rd best player, that could be scary if the Spurs continue, because the Spurs have cap space as far as I'm concerned, I think. Grady, the Spurs should win 45 to 51 games next season if they progress like they should. 100%. There's no question about it. Samuel Wang says, will the Raptors be contenders in the next 5 years? Well, it's funny. I was talking about the Raptors yesterday with my man Patrick Brown. Shout out to Patrick, who's a big Lakers fan. And he was talking about Jimmy Butler and how where Jimmy could end up and whatnot. And I said, listen, I think Jimmy might be a Toronto Raptor soon, because I don't think for Jimmy it's necessarily about playing for a contender. I think he just wants out of Miami. I think Miami, that should be the goal. I don't care that much about what I get for him. I just want him out of the building. For better or for worse, I think Jimmy might be a Raptor soon. Maybe. If the Heat don't trade him, that would be something to behold. But listen, will the Raptors be contenders in the next 5 years? Look, the Knicks have a good future ahead of them. As long as the Bucks have Giannis, they'll be at least contender adjacent. Boston is Boston. They're going to be set for a long time. Cleveland has the young players they've got. I kind of look like Orlando's future if they could add a couple of pieces in the future, as time moves on. I don't necessarily see it with Toronto. I think Scotty Barnes is exceptionally talented. I don't really see them necessarily being a title contender in the next 5 years unless they take some big swings and make some really shocking moves. But good question there, Samuel. All right, moving on now to the NFL. It's amazing. It's Monday of Super Bowl week. Super Bowl opening night. I think it just ended. If it's not, it's toward the end tonight. Super Bowl opening night, where all the players are interviewed, the Chiefs are interviewed, the Eagles are interviewed. First NFL story is 43 minutes of the show, and it involves not even the 2 Super Bowl teams, but Myles Garrett, who asked for a trade from the Cleveland Browns today. He did so in a social media post. Obviously, Myles Garrett has been very successful with the Browns, to say the very least. Number 1 overall pick out of Texas A&M in 2017. But he put out a statement. If we could pull this up here. For some reason, my phone isn't loading on it. Pull up Myles Garrett, what he had to say. I think we've got it. Maybe. Let's pull up the Schefter tweet. This should have it, folks. Okay, Myles Garrett. As a kid dreaming in the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man that I am today. While I've loved calling the city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton, and it has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I've requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett. And he signs it. End quote. So, listen. Kudos to Myles Garrett. This is a guy who is second in the NFL in sacks since he entered the league to my man, I think the best defensive player in the league, T.J. Watt. He has like 102 sacks, does Myles Garrett. He is, I've said, he's not as good as this guy. I just want to put this out there, but he's the closest resemblance, in my estimation, of Reggie White, who I'm a Vols fan, Tennessee Vol legend, and one of the 3 best defensive players in the history of the sport was Reggie White. I say that because not just the aesthetically, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a monster of a man physically. Reggie White, it's one thing as good in shape as those 2 were. Reggie White made all pro left tackles or tackles in general look like high schoolers. He would take 300, 310, 320-pound men and make them look like 18-year-old college recruits. I mean, it was remarkable. You watch the highlight tape of Reggie White, it's sick. Myles Garrett, somewhat similar to that. You see him working against even the best tackles in the NFL. The guy is an absolute freak of nature. A guy that big, he's almost like the Derrick Henry of defensive ends. A guy that big should not move like that. And we all obviously understand how strong he is. He's been durable, and he's endured a lot of losing. Heck, his first season in the NFL in 2017 was when the Browns became the second team in NFL history to go 0-16, obviously, to the Lions in 2008 before they got Matthew Stafford. So he's endured losing from the start. He's been to the playoffs twice, 2020 and in 2022. 2020, they won a playoff game over by Steelers, lost to the Chiefs. 2022, they got bounced in blowout fashion by Houston. This is a guy who has seen Baker Mayfield come and go. This is a guy who has seen the Browns give the worst contract in NFL history to Deshaun Watson. This is a guy who has seen the beginning, middle, and end of the prime of Nick Chubb. And it was time for him. He's still at the peak of his powers. He had 14 sacks last year. He is, I think, one of the three best defensive players in the world. I think it's TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Patrick Surtain. Those are my three best players in the NFL. Fred Warner is darn close. Fred Warner's awesome. That's kind of where I've got my list right now. I think there are four teams that make a lot of sense for Myles Garrett. Four teams. Number one is the Detroit Lions. So, listen, for as bad, and he was bad, as Jared Goff was in that loss to Washington, I mean, are the Lions going to trade him? Like, I doubt it. I wouldn't mind if they gave the reins to Hendon Hooker, but that's neither here nor there. That defense we know was atrocious the rest of the year. And I remember we talked about once Aiden Hutchinson went down with that gruesome injury against Dallas in week 6. I remember vividly all of us talking about, man, Max Crosby, Las Vegas Raiders, he's playing for a losing team. I don't know. That could fill that hole by Aiden Hutchinson. Then he come back next year, and those are your two pass rushers. Watch out, NFL. For as bad as that Lions defense was, the fact that they lost Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, the fact that they lost all the guys that they lost during the season last year, would that not be a shot in the arm for Detroit if they're able to add this guy where now Aiden Hutchinson might actually be your second best pass rusher, if you can believe that? And for a bad secondary, we'll see if Brad Holmes, I'm sure Holmes is going to go all defense in this draft as he should. He's an amazing GM and is drafted well. But let's say the Detroit Lions secondary is as bad as it was a year ago, which is hard to comprehend, but let's say that's the case. You know what the best pass defense is? Pass rush. Great pass rush. That's the old saying that all defensive coaches will tell you. Detroit makes sense. Another bad defense, the team that beat Detroit, Washington. Do you not think Myles Garrett could have made some impact against Philadelphia? I know Jalen Hurts moves. I know Saquon Barkley is just a 60-yard run waiting to happen, but would that not help Washington's defense? Dan Quinn is a defensive coach. I'm sure, like Detroit, they're going to go all in the defensive players this upcoming draft. Washington makes sense. The Buffalo Bills make sense. Of my four teams, they're the only AFC team. They're the only AFC team I'm mentioning because I think Cleveland. Now, I'm saying all this under the probably false or flawed perception that the Cleveland Browns would do anything smart as it relates to football decisions. I mean, forget Deshaun Watson. They made a lot of bad moves in the history. They're the Cleveland Browns. It's Cleveland. I mean, come on. Like, I've been banging this drum since Carving Up started 5.5 years ago. They're not a very good franchise. They probably wouldn't want to trade in the AFC. Buffalo Bills, Von Miller's getting up there in age. This is a defense that I kept saying on the show, and it finally came back to bite him against the Chiefs, where the Buffalo Bills gave up 33 points per game against playoff teams this year, which was the fourth worst by any playoff team against playoff teams in NFL history. I think Myles Garrett might help that a little bit. Again, another team with a defensive coach, Sean McDermott. That would help him. And the last team, and my sister will like this one, the Green Bay Packers. Again, another team with a good defensive coordinator, the guy from Boston College. I'm forgetting his name right off the bat, but Jair Alexander missed time. You know, they've got kind of some holes in that defense. That would patch a lot of the holes. Like Green Bay, offensively, they got to focus on Jordan Love getting back on track. But some of that is the injuries to Love, but getting back on track. You've got the receivers. You got Dobbs, Jaden Reed, others. You got to patch up that defense. In a division with the Lions offense, with the Minnesota Vikings. Whoever the quarterback is, you still got to deal with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison twice a year. And now the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams, who's now coached by Ben Johnson. Like, you've got to offer some resistance. And by the way, in a year where Green Bay was 1-5 in the NFC North, I never in my life did I think would see that. A year where they're 1-5 and the one win came on a blocked field goal against the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field. So those are the four teams. Listen, the Browns will get a bunch of calls. The Browns have maintained they're not going to trade Myles Garrett, which, yeah, you don't want to. It's one of the best players the Browns have ever had, certainly in the Super Bowl era. But I think in the best interest of their team, if they want some chance to have the assets to rebuild after the god-awful Deshaun deal, this may give them the best chance. They have the second overall pick this year, and Cleveland can maybe turn that into some real assets. But I don't blame Myles Garrett at all for wanting out. He gave his all to Cleveland for 8 years. There's no way the Browns fans should be upset at him in any way. If nothing else, I think they should pull for the guy and pull for the Browns to get some good compensation. Don't do like what the Mavs did with Luka, right? Let's get something that can help us in the long term, help us rebuild this thing. And so, but I mean, I will say this though, given that it is Cleveland we're talking about, and given that Cleveland is probably going to end up losing their best player, who asked out, didn't leave him free agency. He's asking out while he's still under contract with the franchise. It's Cleveland Browns doing Cleveland Browns things, and that's losing football games. That is what they do, man. That is what they do. Nonetheless, let's check the comments. Grady's right. Jimmy Butler needs to grow up, to be honest. I respect the frustration, but the guy needs to be a professional. That's the last word you use there, Grady, is kind of the main thing that I've been conflicted with Jimmy as a Warriors fan. And I'll get to the Warriors in about 12 minutes. It's fine if you went out of Miami. I get it. And you do have to, man, it's hard to do business with Pat Riley when Pat Riley has his mindset. It is. But man, being late to flights, showing up sometimes, not showing up. He's now been suspended twice. It's just been a mess. Go about it more. And I've defended Jimmy over the years. I've said, listen, the second Jimmy lands somewhere, they win immediately, and are pretty successful immediately. Chicago went to battle with LeBron that one year in 2015 when they still had Derrick Rose. The Timberwolves, the one full year Jimmy was there, got to the playoffs, which they hadn't been in a long time. The first year Miami, finals. Fourth year Miami, finals. Year for that, a shot away from the finals. But it's gotten to a point where he's as good as he still is, has become potentially more trouble than he's worth. So I'm with you, Grady. He's got to be more professional. There's no question about that. Speaking of, again, who'd have thunk it that the week of the Super Bowl, the Monday of the Super Bowl, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of topics over the next few days. Mahomes, it's already been posted today. What is this mood? What would this win do for Mahomes' legacy? We'll talk about that throughout. I'm strongly considering doing, and I probably will since I won't do any shows the rest of the week, doing a show on the Super Bowl, like maybe sometime around like noon, 1 o'clock, something like that. So like be back here, do a pre-Super Bowl show, do my prediction, all of that, because I wanted to dedicate the show more to the NBA trades, but also talk some Super Bowl and some other NFL stuff. But the thing that I can't understand, I can't comprehend, it doesn't make logical sense, is this idea that the Kansas City Chiefs are the supervillain of the NFL. So as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, give me my theme music. On this week's edition of Carving Out the Context, the Kansas City Chiefs are going for the first three-peat in the history of the Super Bowl. Heck, they're the first team ever. They've already made history to win back-to-back Super Bowls and then make a third. That's never been done before. The 1990 49ers came that close, but there was a fumble late in the game. The Giants ended up winning that game and ended up winning that Super Bowl on the Buffalo Bills missed kick there at the end. Forgetting the kicker's name. I don't know. It's escaped my memory at this moment in time. Bills fans, you tell me. But there's this notion, narrative, whatever you want to call it, that the Kansas City Chiefs are some sort of villain. And listen, I don't want to use the same as to be like, oh, the poor, pitiful Chief. I don't want to do that. But I would just ask the question, on what basis, other than they just win a lot, do you not like the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't even say you got to be a fan of them or even pull for them in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, hate them vitriol, with a true vitriol, like we've seen with other villain teams in the past. So, do we have, I know we have short memories here, forgetting America and society and the social media age and whatnot, but are we still old enough to remember that people talking about, oh, they're worse than the Patriots. I couldn't stand the Patriots. The Chiefs are even worse. We do remember that the New England Patriots were routinely involved in cheating scandals. Not clips on the internet, which I'll get to the refs in just a second. Not clips on the internet of a bad miss holding call in the second quarter that you think impacted the outcome of the game. No. Like actual cheating scandals. Listen, I've been on this since Carving Up started, and I've been right in the long run as more information has come out. Deflategate was a sham in every way, shape, and form. Don't have the time getting into it today, but Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk detailed it perfectly in a book I highly recommend, Playmakers. Highly recommend the book. He detailed why Deflategate was absolute BS. Brady should not have been blamed for that. Belichick should have been blamed for that. Blame Mother Nature. I rest my case. But as recently, folks, as 5 seasons ago, the New England Patriots were found videotaping the signal calling of the Cincinnati Bengals on the sidelines. They lost a 2021 third-round draft pick and were fined $1.1 million. That was a half decade ago, folks. This was before Kansas City won, or actually, sorry, this was the year Kansas City won their first Super Bowl. This is not very long ago that the Patriots were involved with such scandalous acts. Not only that, but Bill Belichick, listen, he's become kind of likable now since he's gone to the media. Now he's with North Carolina. He's going to have to be likable as a college football recruiter. But Bill Belichick played into the villain role. Heck, he looked like Emperor Palpatine. He just did. You see the side by side; it's unbelievable. But just the gruff press conferences on a Cincinnati, and then I remember he was asked about something when they were playing the Seattle Seahawks. He just kept saying Seattle. We're on Cincinnati. Not the most likable human being in the world. Andy Reid is the most lovable. Like, he's on the State Farm commercials. Bundle Ruski. Everybody loves Andy Reid. And then the quarterbacks, the other face of the dynasty, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. And I love Tom. I love me some Tom Brady. That's my guy. The greatest ever. Tom Brady looks like Prince Charming. And he, for a time, was married to the most successful supermodel in the world. There's going to be some jealousy. I'm not faulting Tom or Giselle for that, but I want them to be successful. I want everybody to be successful, but there's going to be some jealousy that comes with that. A couple that looks that good and makes that much money, duh. Patrick Mahomes married his high school sweetheart. And listen, she can be at times extreme with some of her actions during the games, but listen, aren't every single one of us as fans? Now, she's the wife of the quarterback, so that's different, but aren't we all as fans a little emotional, to say the very least, when things are going well or not going well for our teams? So I just don't like how they go about their business. I don't know, Reed's pretty lovable and Mahomes pretty lovable. Brady, again, just is Brady, outside of how he came into the NFL, is not necessarily the most relatable guy in the world. And I love Tom Brady. Love the guy. The second aspect of it is the whole again, the refs thing. So what we have with the Chiefs is calls, be it against, the two calls in the Bills game, which I think certainly the first one I 100% think was the correct call, the Xavier Worthy catch. That is a catch all day long. Had enough control of the ball in the tie-up, survived the ground. That's a catch. The second of which being the Josh Allen play. I thought Josh Allen got the first down, but anybody acting like it was just obvious, or it's a disingenuous take to have. Whether it be the roughing the passer calls against the Houston Texans and a host of other games where people are like, oh, the fix is in, the refs are in the bag for the Chiefs. We do remember, right? Like 3 weeks ago, wild card round, Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos. Remember Bill Vinovich? Ref goes to the sidelines and kind of whisper something in Josh Allen's ear. Now, I'm certainly in no way implying that Josh Allen, the refs, have something, cooking behind the scenes, in no way, shape, or form. But if that was Patrick Mahomes on the sideline, what do you think they're going to say? What do you think they're going to say on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere? And by the way, Patrick Mahomes, 16th in the NFL in terms of roughing the passer penalties called against. Josh Allen, numero uno. And how many times, by the way, when Tom Brady played, would they call roughing the passer? People would be like, oh, they barely touched him. This is ridiculous. So the refs thing is just not founded in reality. Even Goodell addressed it today. He was like, yeah, it's a crazy thing for people to believe. And Goodell doesn't speak in terms like that. So that's number 2. Number 3. And I think this is the thing, the non-football aspect of it that I still can't justify or understand is I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs because the second best player in the dynasty dates a woman I don't like. Travis Kelce is in a very serious relationship with Taylor Swift. So I want to understand that. And I've done multiple segments. I did a ton of segments last year and got a lot of praise, pushback, all of it on Taylor Swift. That what don't you like about her? What don't you like? She's never been in trouble. She is a role model, a stand-up individual, visits sick kids in hospitals, people don't even know the stuff that Taylor does behind the scenes, the untold amount of money she gives to I think she gives a lot of money to truck drivers, if I'm not mistaken, to different organizations that are great causes, helping a lot of people. A lot of this is done behind the scenes, and she's happy. She seems to enjoy life. She is, and you say, well, she's successful. How many successful people have we seen that are just internally conflicted or deal with their own personal demons? No drugs. Oh, she had a bunch of boyfriends. Yeah, okay. Who doesn't at that age and what profession she's in? If that's the biggest mark on somebody, they've dated a lot of people. Gonna have to add a whole lot of people to that list. Taylor's not exactly unique in that regard. So Taylor, by all account, they show her like 4 times a game for like 3 seconds. High-fiving or celebrating when her boyfriend scores a touchdown when the Chiefs do something good. Oh, just stop the presses. I can't stand this person. And so it's, if you don't like the Kansas City Chiefs because they win a lot, okay. That's usually how sports dynasties work, in the sense, it's why I say dynasties are great for sports. A team wins a lot, everybody's like, man, they've won too much. I want somebody else to win. Right? When the Patriots were winning, we wanted I don't know if we wanted the Eagles to win, but we wanted the Giants to win. We wanted the Atlanta Falcons to win, or the Seahawks, or whatever. When the Warriors were in the finals, we wanted Cleveland to win, and they did. We wanted Toronto to win. Well, I didn't want any of these teams to win because I'm a Warriors fan, but people want the Toronto Raptors to win. People rooted against the American team to win the non-American team to win the finals against the Golden State Warriors, because we were tired of the Warriors winning. We were tired of Alabama wins too much. UConn back in the day won too much. I'm sure at some point it may get to a point where South Carolina women's basketball, I'm tired of Don Staley and the Gamecocks winning all these national championships. That's just how dynasties work. If that's why you don't like the Chiefs, it tracks with history. But if you don't like them for the other reasons, if you don't like them because of the girlfriend of one of their players who's entirely unproblematic, who is a role model citizen, if you don't like them because, I just don't like how they go about their business. I don't know. Belichick was kind of shady, and I'm being generous. He was extremely shady. Andy Reid, not in the slightest. Everybody loves Andy Reid. Even people who don't like the Chiefs. I love Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes, relatable guy. He is, for a number of reasons. And then the whole refs thing, I don't know. The Patriots were involved in literal cheating scandals. And take out Deflategate because that was BS. The rest of them, though? Come on now. I mean, the NFL stripped draft picks from this team multiple times over the course of 20 years because they did some shady stuff behind the scenes. So the whole villains thing, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I think it's, I'll tell you, kind of open a can of worms, because Travis Kelce set a new heights with his brother Jason We kind of embrace the whole villain thing. The fact that, we used to be to a degree, like kind of like not the lovable losers, but we were the underdog team. We hadn't won in 50 years, and we win a Super Bowl, and everybody's like, oh, good for Andy Reid. And, oh, here's this young guy, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce's the fun-loving tight end. I don't know. It really doesn't make much sense. Got some comments. Grady, what do you think the Browns will do at quarterback? I genuinely think the Browns should go get Aaron Rodgers just to sell tickets next year. I'm actually being serious. Okay. Look. I've clowned the Browns. I've clowned Cleveland sports teams. I don't really clown the Guardians that much, but the Cavs throughout the course of the show. Your time's coming, Cleveland. And the Browns this year, or every year, for a long time. And I have been one of the few consistent critics of Aaron Rodgers on a number of fronts. If that marriage materializes, boy, that'll. I've said I think Aaron Rodgers should retire. I don't want him to retire because he's good for my show. That would be good for carving up. I'll say that, Grady. Grady also says it would be pretty funny if the Eagles won. Him and Brady would have one thing in common. They both lost to the Philadelphia Eagles and won against the Eagles. Like, they both would have won the first time, lost the second time. So that definitely would have been funny. We'll talk about it. Again, I'm likely going to do a pre-Super Bowl show on Super Bowl Sunday, sometime around like noon. I'm not going to go while Fox is doing their pregame show because I want to check that out. Everybody wants to check that out. Halftime, all that. But I did want to address the whole, what this whole legacy thing with Patrick Mahomes, because I've been on the front end saying, I've said since that Super Bowl win against San Francisco last year, I think he's the second greatest quarterback of all time. I've said that I think a win against Philadelphia would cement it that he is no lower than the second greatest quarterback of all time. Tune in for Sunday what I think this win could do as it relates to the conversation with Brady. Because certainly that's who Patrick's pursuing. That's the only guy I think that is above him. So, yeah, definitely tune in for that. We'll have other Super Bowl topics, obviously. We'll talk Kendrick Lamar. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. I mean, not like us, sweeps the Grammys last night. 5 wins. And when it won Album of the Year. I'm sorry. I think it was Record of the Year. Not like us. And when the crowd did the A minor part. This is another bad night for Drizzy. And I mean, it was the song of the year. I mean, there's no other way around it. It was the song of the year. Let's see what we got. Grady. I think Taylor Swift kind of has I think it says LeBron. The LeBron. Let me continue your comment. People know you're great, but she comes across as very boastful. I don't know if I agree with this. I'm personally indifferent to her, but if you keep having to tell me how great you are, after a while, I just don't believe you. That's why LeBron isn't the GOAT, because he keeps having to tell me that he is. So to go back to your previous point, LeBron has done that. There's no question. I've never seen Taylor Swift really do that. Like, I've never seen Taylor go up and say, I am the greatest pop star in the history of the world. I had the most successful tour in the history of entertainment. That's not really her MO. Like, Taylor is almost modest is the wrong word to use, but not quite to the level that, shout out Beyonce, by the way, about time she got Album of the Year. Beyonce is like intensely private. Taylor's not intensely private, but I think there's a difference, Grady, between joyful, because she exudes confidence. Like, I'm of the mindset I think you should do. Now, I think there's confidence in what LeBron does, which, again, I don't really have a problem with, but I don't associate that with, I'm going to kind of strut my stuff and show people what I'm about. So I don't think that's the same thing. I've never gotten the vibe. Like, LeBron, to your point, outright says it. LeBron has said, I am the greatest basketball player of all time. Tom Brady, I remember he was on a podcast. Was it Ryan Clark's podcast? It was a Pivot. It was some other podcast where he alluded to being that he was talking about Wayne Gretzky and talking about how I forget what the exact quote was, but how he's parallel to Gretzky or something, how he was the greatest of all time. Brady said it. Steph Curry has said, I'm the greatest shooter of all time. I've never seen Taylor just outright come out and say, I'm the greatest pop star ever. I'm greater than Michael Jackson. I'm greater than Prince. I'm better than Madonna. I'm better than all of them. She's never really done that. I think from what I've seen, again, I don't know the woman, but from what I've seen from people that know her and behind the scenes, let's put it this way. If everybody who knows you can't speak highly enough of you, that's pretty good. So there you go. I mean, Kobe Bryant knew a young Taylor Swift and just, was as praiseworthy as could be. Kobe Bryant did praise nobody. So I should say he praised nobody. You didn't get praise from Kobe Bryant unless you were, on a different stratosphere, like Kobe was, God rest his soul. We'll go to break and then come back with some interesting news we've gotten throughout the course of the show, actually, on the Golden State Warriors. And a crazy move that would be crazy if it happened. But it wouldn't be insane. Back after a 1-minute break. Welcome back to Carving It Up. So, real quick, before we get to Golden State, this has just been such a crazy 48 hours in sports. Insane. So, we actually got, this certainly doesn't rise to the level of the Luka news, but earlier today that the Los Angeles Rams are going to trade Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp has acknowledged this on social media. He has embraced it. He's put out a thank you LA video. So, the only downside at this point about trading for Cooper Kupp is two things. A is health. Cooper struggled with injuries really throughout his entire career. And two, he's making it somewhere around $20 million a year next year, which Cooper Kupp's peak in 2021 was insane. After that, he's been a good receiver, but certainly not special. Like Puka Nacua obviously emerged into the number one option for the LA Rams offense, and they want to go in the direction of building more around him as the centerpiece, even as Matthew Stafford is still there. Stafford's obviously getting up there in age. He's got a decision to make over his future. So for Cooper Kupp, listen, I think Cincinnati could be a good fit, although Cincinnati doesn't pay anything for, they still haven't paid Jamar Chase yet. They haven't paid for an indoor facility yet. So I doubt Cooper Kupp's going to be at the top of their priority list. I'm going to say it again. The Steelers desperately need a second receiver. In about a year, we may need a number one receiver. Because unless George Pickens does some serious soul searching, that's not going to work long term. He's a special player with the ball in his hands, but he has become I think even worse than Jimmy Butler like malcontent. It's bad. Trust me, from here in Pittsburgh, it's real bad. So Cooper Kupp in Pittsburgh, I would not be against whatsoever. So we'll see what happens with that. The second thing is just for kicks and giggles. So again, I'm again working in Disney World. I decided to go to Animal Kingdom today, and we talked about a lot of basketball players today. And one thing that is associated automatically with basketball players is verticality and height. Well, I saw a tall friend today on the Kilimanjaro Safari. I don't know if you guys can still hear me, but this video, I'm sorry for my videography, but this video does not do it justice how close that thing, I don't know if it was a male or a female, how close it got to the truck that we were in. But yeah, the giraffe, I guess he was coming in to, I don't know, let me know that, my Super Bowl tie. He might be an Eagles fan. I'm not sure. She might be an Eagles fan. So I don't know. That was fun to see, though. Giraffe on the open savanna at Animal Kingdom, so that was fun to see. What also could be very, very, very fun to see is the Golden State Warriors to do something I've implored them to do since July and trade for a second star next to the greatest player in franchise history, Steph Curry. So there's been a number of reports today. I'll give you the most recent one that relates to Golden State. This is from Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated, as reliable sources there is. He says the Golden State Warriors are indeed serious about reuniting with Kevin Durant, sources told SportsCenter. And with efforts to acquire Jimmy Butler stalled, rival execs believe the Suns are strongly considering Durant deals before the deadline. So, two big pieces of information. The Suns are listening to offers for KD. This isn't a situation where teams are trying to convince the Suns. This is where it's like, okay, Devin Booker's our franchise cornerstone. Reportedly, Bradley Beal doesn't want to uproot his family. Respect that. Bradley Beal's going to be a Sun for the foreseeable future. They may want to move off Kevin Durant, see what they can get for him in the here and now, and see. And for KD's sake, obviously, he has no chance. And I said this the second they made the Beal trade. He had no chance to contend for a title in Phoenix, starting in 2023. So listen, I think Golden State is correct in this pursuit and going after KD. There was one kind of shot in the dark report that, hey, they're interested in Giannis. It's like, yeah, the league is interested in Giannis, kind of like Luka, which is why you shouldn't trade him, Dallas. But we don't have to relitigate that today. KD makes a lot of sense in Golden State. So the draw for Kevin Durant is pretty simple to go back to the Golden State Warriors through a trade, obviously, with Phoenix. Is the first go-around, famously, this was not LeBron going to the Heat, where the Miami Heat were a 6th seed, perennial first-round exit team, and for as great as Dwayne Wade was, they didn't sniff another NBA title after they won it all in 2006 until they added LeBron in the 2010 offseason. This was a situation where the Golden State Warriors did not need Kevin Durant to be a championship team. They needed him to be an unstoppable force that nobody could touch. I maintain the 2016-17 Golden State Warriors are the greatest basketball team ever assembled in the history of the world that is an Olympic player, all-star play. They did not need Kevin Durant that time. Steph Curry, I think, would have gone on to win multiple championships without KD. Oh, he ain't winning jack with the team that's what they got right now. Golden State Warriors, as we sit here today, are 500, are the 10 seed in the West, like they were last year when Sacramento blitzed them in the play-in game, and with Steph Curry turning 37 next month. Still productive. Hey, Steph's literally an all-star starter. He's doing something right. But he's clearly he's not quite the Steph that he was even as recently as 2-3 years ago. Can he still be the best player on a title team? I believe so, because I think he's better today than Kevin Durant, given the looks that Steph faces, given the value late in games that Steph provides. If the Golden State Warriors had Kevin Durant, instantly they're a title contender in the Western Conference. Keep in mind, for as great as Oklahoma City is, we've never seen them do it in the playoffs. I'm not saying they can't do it in the playoffs. I'm saying we haven't seen them do it. They're kind of green as it relates to NBA playoff experience. The Dallas Mavericks, I think, absolutely got worse. The Lakers are golden for the next 10 years, but fit-wise right now, it doesn't really work. More on the Lakers in about 2 to 3 minutes. The rest of the West, Houston, very young. Memphis, when has Memphis ever been trustworthy in the playoffs? Ever, in any era. Even in the grit and grind era, outside of Zach Randolph and Conley, I never really bought them. Okay, up and down the West, you look at multiple teams. There's not anybody that can really – the Clippers, come on. There's not – Denver – listen, Denver, I said actually before the season, I said – if the Warriors get a true all-star superstar guy next to Steph, I think they're going to win the championship, because that's how much I believe in Steph Curry. If they don't add it, which would make me sick because of what I think it can mean, Denver was my pick, because I think Jokic is that special, Jamal Murray in the playoffs, the whole bit. And Michael Malone's a really good coach. Salty with the media, but Malone's a great coach. So the other thing that has been reported, I want to go and pull this up to make sure I'm getting the information that's correct, because I don't want to bungle it, because it would be earth-shattering if this actually happened. So it was reported today by, if we could pull this up here, it was reported today by Jake Fisher, who's covered the Warriors. He's at Bleacher Report. He's with the Steinline. He reported, and I quote, "Sources say the most ambitious idea being tossed around among Golden State's decision makers. Is there any feasible pathway for the Warriors to pull off the dreamiest of outcomes and find a way, to bring both LeBron James and Kevin Durant to the Bay. End quote. That is directly from Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report with the Stein line. Okay, so he mentions the dreamiest of scenarios. Yeah, you don't say. I think the Warriors would be the championship favorites, or should be, were they to make that happen. Because while Steph, LeBron, and KD are at the late stages of the career, I think we saw they together in the Olympics. They were basically perfect together as a trio. So any way for LeBron to end up as a Warrior this week, and it's slim, but the KD trade, I think, has to happen first. I think any chance of LeBron, because I think LeBron could go to the Warriors this offseason. I don't think LeBron, I said it earlier in the show, I don't think LeBron's a Laker in 4 months or 5 months. Could it be one this week? A Warrior this week. The KD trade needs to happen by probably tomorrow night or Wednesday morning. It needs to give them enough time for LeBron to see it happen, to process it, be like, okay, what is the best option for me, LeBron James, the king, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest basketball player ever, to win right now? Because that's all it's about for LeBron, is winning right now, because I have 1, maybe 2 years left, and then I'm out. Then I'm retiring. The Lakers is currently constructing. Now, we got to see what they do. If they had a big, see what they do. But the Lakers I don't think can win a championship right now, just in terms of how their roster is constructed. They certainly will in the future with Luka, which is why it was a great trade in their part, or an obvious trade in their part, and an incredibly dumb one in the Dallas Mavericks part. LeBron would have to ask this question. It's about, because I made my money. I'm a billionaire, for crying out loud. I can always come back to Los Angeles. My career is almost over anyway. I'm going to retire and live in LA. My son plays for the Lakers as of right now. For me, LeBron James, if I'm LeBron, do have a better chance to win a championship with Luka and the roster we've got, or with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant? I think, and by the way, Draymond Green's probably still there, and we know LeBron and Draymond are close, and Draymond still provides immense value for the Warriors. He's actually back tonight after an injury, which is huge for Golden State. You're telling me LeBron doesn't, and the reports are Chris Haynes and others have said he's staying a Laker. But you don't think that would at least make him think a little bit about wanting to be a Golden State Warrior? And for the record, I'm not so sure the Lakers wouldn't acquiesce to his demands. Because for the record, I mean, listen, they didn't console him about the Luka trade, but there'd be an element of, okay, yeah, we are going to completely pass the torch to our new franchise guy, Luka Doncic. Wouldn't that make sense for both sides of the equation? Wouldn't that make sense for the Lakers to be like, okay, Warriors, give us Andrew Wiggins. Give us a perimeter defender. Helps us immensely, who can give you, potentially 15 to 18 points per game. Give us some of your young guys. You got to give us Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga, I've said ever since he was drafted, that kid's going to be a multi-time all-star. I just don't think he's going to do that while Steph is still great. Can he do that when Luka's great? Well, I don't know. Luka's 25, going on 26. My guess is yes. You pair him with Luka, he can defend, he can get to the rim almost at will, and when he refines that jump shot, look the heck out. You're gonna have to give us some first-round picks if you're the Lakers, or if you're the Warriors with the Lakers. You have to give us 2-3 first-round picks. We may turn that into a player, because if we know anything about the Lakers, they don't draft that well, and frankly, doesn't matter, because they can turn those draft picks into elite basketball players, or potentially a Miles Turner or something. So I think it'd be mutually beneficial. I listen. The idea of Steph, Bron, and KD on the same team is a wild thing to think about. But honestly, given what transpired Saturday night, Sunday morning, whatever coast of the country you were on when you saw the news, I think at this point, in the words of Kevin Garnett, anything's possible. Anything is on the board at this point. But that's the latest we've got today. That, according to Chris Mannix, that the Warriors are. It was reported today by Anthony Slater, who covers the Warriors. He said point blank that they're desperate. I'm like, yeah, they should have been desperate. Because the last point I'll make, because I alluded to it and talking about KD and the possibility of him coming back. The reason that I have been as adamant about this as I have been since July, I think, I don't have any sources with knowledge to this. This is pure speculation. I said in July, if the Golden State Warriors do not add a star, and preferably a superstar, at least superstar adjacent guy, top 15, 20 guy next to Steph Curry, if they don't do that by the February 6th trade deadline, I think Steph Curry's going to ask out this summer. I really believe that because Steph's is in a similar stage LeBron's at, where it's like still great, still can be any given night the best player on the floor, but can't give it to you nightly basis. And again, Steph in a month is going to be 37 years old. And Steph, his whole career, he has said this. It's why he was cool with KD joining the first place in 2016 when Steph was a back-to-back MVP and a champion in 2015. He's like, yeah, this gives us the best chance to win. I'm down with it. I'll take a pay cut. This will hurt my shoe sales. I don't care because I win as a result of it. Steph's a win-first guy. That he's always been that. It's why he's been called the most unselfish superstar in basketball history. Yeah, it's because that's his first and foremost priority, winning. You show me some other teams won't be interested in Steph. You think Steph wouldn't be interested in other teams. You think there aren't teams that have potential previous teammates of Steph at Team USA won't consult their star player and say, hey, how'd you like playing with Steph? You think maybe we could talk to Golden State about this if Steph asks out, because Steph is sick and tired of, since 2019, you having one legitimate title run in which you won the thing, great, but that was mostly Steph's greatness that got you that title. Outside of that, it's been injuries to Clay, deterioration of Clay, Draymond suspensions, bad draft picks, inactivity in the offseason and at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden you've got a situation where, according to Anthony Slater, and he is correct on this, the Warriors are desperate. This is one of the most important 72-hour stretches in Golden State Warriors history. That the greatest player in their history, I believe, no direct knowledge of the situation, pure speculation, will ask out this summer, I think, in part because the relationships cultivated with Team USA last offseason, during the summer when Team USA won gold and Steph was the golden boy at the end, and the aspect of, man, I'm 37, made my money, won my MVPs. I just want to compete for titles at this point. And the Golden State Warriors don't give me the best opportunity to do that. You're on the clock, Mike Dunleavy Jr. Fate of the franchise is in your hands. What you going to do? And with that is all the time for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live. Likely on Sunday, we'll give you a time and place on social media. Super Bowl Sunday, we'll do not really necessarily a pregame show, but more like a preview show with my pick, with discussions around Mahomes, the Eagles. Cannot wait to get into all of that this coming Sunday, probably noon or somewhere around noon prior to the game, which obviously kicks off at 6:30 Eastern. So be there then. Grab your popcorn, get your Super Bowl, situation ready at home, or if you're going to a Super Bowl party, turn the show on. We'll be on well before the Fox pregame shows, so tune in for that on Sunday. Be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day to hit that big old subscribe button down there, as it helps the channel grow exponentially. And just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. You can find us at the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. And check out the 8 o'clock spot tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. My man Alpha Parsar Jr. going to be hosting, going to do a great job. Our pre-Super Bowl 8 o'clock spot show. You're not going to want to miss that on the Grid tomorrow night. And the Grid, I'm sure we're going to have as a network, plenty of pre-Super Bowl content that I cannot wait to get into. And we'll have our own show here in Carving It Up on Sunday, time to be released later. Okay. Crazy stuff in the NBA. And listen, I know pre-Super Bowl show Sunday, I'm not going to sit up here and say that we won't do a show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, depending on what the situation is. If the Golden State Warriors don't do what they should have been done, and that's add a second superstar next to Steph Curry, Kevin Durant could very well be on the board. And dare I say, if you do add Kevin Durant, phone call Mr. Pelinka. Who's to say he wouldn't do it? And add that guy who wears number 23. They were teammates before, months ago. Just saying. We will see you guys certainly on Sunday, maybe before that. Give more information on social media. We'll put out YouTube videos, all that. We're providing you with tons of content all week long. It's Super Bowl week, baby. Let's go. We'll see see you soon. That's all I'm going to say. See you soon with potential NBA trade reaction, Super Bowl preview on Sunday. Cannot wait. What a week. I love sports. See y'all soon. God bless y'all. Peace out. Sports is the best, man. I love it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.